My name is Admirable Mokaeze. I'm from Delta State, Ibuzo precisely. And we're based in Abeokuta here, myself and my family. Well, I'm a retired civil servant. Started from Lagos, transferred to Ibadan and Abeokuta, and subsequently to Benin. And then I retired in Benin, and because here has been my base, and then for the fact that even in the course of my own work life, my wife too had her own work life. So we had settled here more or less, even while I was now going and coming. So upon my retirement, I came back home. This is my home. Like you rightly captured, the second child, but fortunately or unfortunately, the first male, you know, and interestingly, responsibility further to the family came very, very early, as it were. And to God be the glory, I was able to carry it on before going to formal schooling. You know, what I mean is, because it came on, I started work life even as a school start holder, as it were. And then in between, I left for school. So if I have to put all of that together, it's like I started being a father, responsibility-wise, even before I got married or became a man as a man. It was then after school that I eventually got married. And if I stretched that a while, I think I would say I rather married late, because if when I finished secondary school, I went straight to the university, maybe I would have married or settled earlier, you know. But of course, that didn't happen. So in a nutshell, I think that background of taking responsibilities earlier, behold on me now to when I now got my own started, even though I was still being distracted. But of course, when I got my own now, it influenced me reasonably to becoming a more responsible father. Fortunately, or unfortunately again, my baby girl was the only child, so it made it like nowhere else to look, so to speak. So I couldn't but do what I had to do as a parent and within the limits of what I could do. So it truly, truly influenced me positively, to say the least.
Never really heard of starting lights now, have you? I'm just waking up, but you know what? Let's do it. Growing up mostly with my mom. I mean, my dad was present, just not physically present. So there was a lot of phone calls, lots of text messages, lots of communication, just not on ground. But I think what that inadvertently did was it made me a lot closer to my mom, which, I don't know, it's a very interesting dynamic because my automatic response a lot of times is to tell my mom first. And then after telling my mom, then I tell my dad. Well, for some people, it's the other way around, mostly because maybe they had both parents around at the same time. So I would say the only real difference was that I formed a closer bond, a more immediate bond with my mom. Not that I'm not close to my dad, but he just wasn't around, so there was a lot of decisions, quote unquote, that were made with just my mom involved, so I almost automatically revert back to that now. But me and my daddy are cool, sha.
Being an AGM or retiring as an AGM actually helped me, you know, in furtherance of my relationship with my daughter, particularly the movement as well. So it was like, even with the demanding nature of the job as an AGM, you know, it was like every other opportunity of coming home or being with them was like, I want to get everything done before I move again. And having been in a position where I was handling a lot of human capital, as it were, I became versatile, more or less. There were challenges, that comes with the job. So that further prepared me to, while making maximum use of every other single opportunity I had. And luckily too, in the event of any network issue, the mom too, the same thing, but I made sure we had all the lines then, kind of, so that if I don't, for any reason, miss getting them on one line, I certainly will get them on the other.
Secondary school was an interesting time because it was a time when everybody was developing, and I had mentioned before, my dad worked in a different state, so there was definitely a lot of strain because I felt like, I was seeing a lot of other kids. Mommy and daddy were coming for PTA meetings, everybody's parents were available, but all the time, it was always my mom. People really didn't know my dad when I was growing up, and I don't know, I think for a while, I'm not gonna lie, there may have been some level of, I don't wanna say resentment, but more like anger towards the fact that he wasn't always available. I remember there was one time my dad had gone to look for me in, I think, a GS3 class when I was in like SS2 or something weird like that. So I would say at that time, there was a strain because I felt like I didn't know my dad, especially for my quote-unquote formative years. But with how the relationship has progressed now, I understand because economic is hard, okay? If there is opportunity right now we have couples that live in 2 separate continents, talk less of 2 that were living in 2 separate states to sort of make ends meet, and that was what was required. So the adult in me recognizes and respects my father for being sort of absent, quote unquote, during my secondary school time. But the secondary school me still is a bit hurt and bruised by the fact that I don't even have a graduation photograph of secondary school with my father. But it is what it is.
Indeed, missing out of some of our very unique outings, as it were, like first baptism, visiting day at school, parents' day, and the likes. They were painful. They were painful and regrettable, but definitely not taken for granted. I needed to grow. It's my career, it's my job. And I was not readily around. And the blame or the blames, even though I'm taking it as a parent, has to do with trust and confidence reposed in me. And it made me to grow in my career, as it were. So I couldn't have forsaken that because part of my responsibility on that is to further make sure I do what I have to do for her and for the family. So as painful as they were, I made up whenever I could. Of course, to God be the glory, the mother was always there, on our behalf, so to speak. So that's just the truth. That was, my love for that stimulated at that too. She's a voracious reader. She reads more than I do. Because right from when she was able to read, let me just put it that way, I started buying her books. When I come, it's in anything. At times I want to say, I've seen this, I've seen this, I've seen this. Oh, buy this, Daddy, when you're coming, buy this, buy that. At times I will come for a weekend, drop my bag, into the car, we jump. I've seen this other series, let's go. That kind of it. So it improved or kind of influenced her reading ability. And then football too. We watch football together. She's crazy about football. I think, if I'm not mistaken, our club is Arsenal, for example. So it has further brought us together. At times we are making noise. The mom will come and say, is it not just 2 of you that are watching this match? You calm down. We shout and maybe go for a bottle of wine and begin to share, even while we're watching the match, just to tell you the level of excitement, and love we have for the game.
My love for books, for film, for music, for football, all came from my dad. The very first book I ever read in my life, my father got it for me, was A Troll and the Bridge. And I huff and I puff. Oh no, that is Ray Riding Hood. Anyway, I digress. But even on days when he wasn't around, something that brought us together a lot was football, because Sunday evenings or Saturday evenings, even till now, he'll call me and we'll talk about, oh, did you watch that match? Or, unfortunately, I'm an Arsenal fan, so every time we lose a match, my father will call me, meaning he called me very often. But it was something that just was our thing, if that makes sense. And then also, believe it or not, my father actually uses like football analogies to explain life to me. So there's a lot of, you know, imagine there's a penalty, a free kick on the corner, and I'm just like, there's not a lot of people that can understand. But I think aside not being around, that was something that sort of brought us together even better. Music, film, all of that, just general appreciation for the arts was me and my dad's thing. So I would say it helped quite a lot because it was common ground that we could sort of talk about when he wasn't around, because he wasn't around much.
The question of emotional IQ, as it were, is perfectly correct. The affection now is very, very correct. However, beauty of it is that there wasn't much of this movement we're talking about. My absence wasn't from the initial foundation level, as it were. We were all together, you know, as the build-up was coming. Unfortunately, as we were growing, you know, she was growing, I was growing on the job, and then the transfers thing came about. That's true. Definitely would have been more enhancing, no doubt. But the fact is that, till date, I don't think I've lost that same affectionate or being an affectionate person, not to talk of with my daughter, you know. Perhaps when Anna had more time was when eventually she grew up, university, youth service, and then leaving us. But it has not stopped, because when you hear us talking, that same feeling is still there.
Cherished moments with my dad. Let me see, that's I think maybe my matriculation, or, no, actually, you know what? I think it was my 21st, I'm old though. Let me rephrase that. I think it was my 18th birthday. My parents had just said happy birthday. I remember I was in uni, and I didn't even expect anything, only for my mom and my dad to actually show up, all guns blazing. They came with like 5 huge tubs of ice cream. My mom had made me a cake, and I remember I got announced, because I went to a private school, they announced, oh, you have visitors downstairs, blah, blah, blah. And I go downstairs and it's my dad, and smack in the middle of a university campus, I literally run to my dad and he picks me up and he spins me around. My mother was just at the back like, yep, here they go again. So I think that was a really cherished memory. I love that. I love that he surprised me, drove all the way to my school, and he brought me sweets and chocolates, which is the best type of love language that there is. Oh, I think my food is here.
Maybe yes, maybe not. Because we still got along very well. Perhaps it would have been much more than it is. Or who knows, it could have been worse too. But of course, even if there are gaps, as it were, particularly now she's in adulthood and I'm retired, having more time to myself, definitely, considering where we are coming from and how we are coming, definitely we'll wrap it up, we'll take it up to the next level, possible level.
I mean, was my family dynamic really that unique? I suppose only child, dad that didn't live with us. But yeah, I would say it changed quite a bit, because I knew that it showed me that there were different family dynamics. It showed me that daddy can be in Benin, mommy can be in Ogun. It showed me that there are so many different versions of quote unquote the family unit, and that was absolutely okay. So I don't think anything can shock me in terms of what a family dynamic is right now, because there's just so many different versions of it. And I didn't have a regular one, and that's completely fine. I would like to think I'm a very well-balanced individual. I would like to think.
All my life, all the memories. memories we've shared are alive, and they're bright and crystal clear. Oh, I can't hide. No one else loves me the same way. All my life, you have known. You have known where I've been heading to, and you've guided my steps. I don't know where I would be without your love. Love that feels so pure. The Father's love I'll keep, yeah. Oh, you've been here. The Father's love I'll keep, yeah. Oh, yeah, I'll keep you in my heart. No be more 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 in my heart. No be more.